Assassin's Creed Shadows is living up to the hype after just crossing the 2 million mark for active players and has already become the second highest grossing Assassin's Creed game on day one, right behind Valhalla. On top of that, Shadows already has more Steam players than they have ever had for an Assassin's Creed game, passing the 62,000 mark that Odyssey set after its launch. So yeah, it's safe to say that Shadows is crushing it on the numbers side, but will it be enough to save Ubisoft? Well, to answer that question, let's just rewind slightly and take a look at the history of Assassin's Creed to get a better idea for the future. So it's 2007, the gaming industry is on the brink of a revolution, the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 are pushing graphical limits, and the well-known game development company Ubisoft is about to come out with a game that would come to be known as Assassin's Creed. The first game in the series was released in 2007, like I said, and created the ambitious, historic aesthetic that would set the tone for the rest of the series, as the game followed Desmond Miles through the Holy Land during the Third Crusade. It received a fair 7.5 rating on IGN because it was different from other games at the time. It allowed players to use parkour and stealth to their advantage in a dark historic setting. And this foundation led to massive success in Assassin's Creed 2 in 2009, where Ubisoft realized they may have hit the jackpot, beginning the golden age for the franchise. So for years after that, Assassin's Creed was a powerhouse in the gaming scene. Many people would tell you it was the biggest franchise at the time, which is obviously arguable considering competitors like Call of Duty at the time, but it just goes to show the magnitude to which Ubisoft was delivering on these games, and people were eating them up. Just to name a few, there was AC3, Black Flag, and my personal favorite, which may be controversial, was Unity. And they all essentially released year after year after year, and they were just printing money for Ubisoft. And then Origins came along in 2017 after just a couple of minor letdowns in the series, and it was a turning point for the franchise, where Assassin's Creed effectively became an open-world RPG, and they never looked back after that. So Origins was in development for over 4 years and had a production staff of over 1,000 people, which truly demonstrated the commercialization and scale that Assassin's Creed was growing to after a historic run in the 2010s. After seeing how much success this formula had, Ubisoft released Odyssey and Valhalla in the subsequent installments, yet players weren't quite as amused. People complained that it was overambitious and the franchise was losing its defining characteristics of stealth and parkour and immersive history, and so this kind of started the downfall of Assassin's Creed. Mirage was released in 2023 and was a step in the right direction towards renewing the individual pieces that made Assassin's Creed so great, but it wasn't the complete return to form that players were hoping for. So now we are essentially back to present day, just about. You guys get the full picture of where we are and what fans are expecting with the individual Assassin's Creed, and really just Assassin's Creed Shadows, not just the entire franchise, but in a short-term kind of perspective, just looking at this game that just came out 2 weeks ago. So obviously there's a lot more that goes into Ubisoft than just one franchise, even if it is their most successful one. So let's put a pin in Assassin's Creed for just a minute here and take a wider lens look at Ubisoft as a whole. When it comes to the demise of Ubisoft, or whatever you want to call it, I think it's most appropriate to begin in 2020 when the pandemic hit. You could definitely argue that their downfall started well before that, but I think it really compounded during this time, so it's probably easiest to talk about this individual era. Obviously, Ubisoft went from one of the most dominant competitors in all of gaming to essentially fighting for survival in just a matter of a couple of years. So how does this happen? I mean, we talked about how Assassin's Creed was declining, but what about the other blockbuster IPs that Ubisoft has, like Tom Clancy's, Far Cry, Watch Dogs, The Crew, etc. Like, their reputation for delivering high quality and reliable games was just tarnished after so many failures along the way. I mean, you had Skull and Bones that was delayed 7 years. Beyond Good and Evil 2 has been delayed since 2008. Yes, you heard that right. The Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake that was supposed to come out like 4 years ago, and here we are. And it even took years for X Defiant to get going since being announced in 2021, and then it just ultimately failed anyway. And then you had games like Hyperscape and Ghost Recon Frontline, which were good ideas in theory, but just complete failures. And actually, Frontline was completely canceled before it even came out, so it didn't even have a chance to fail or succeed for that matter. And then, unpopular opinion while on the subject, Hyperscape was an absolute gem. I just want to put that out there during quarantine. I think it had so much potential, but it just received zero support from Ubisoft, and they just let it die out, which was so confusing to me, but I mean, that's water under the bridge now. The common issues here are that Ubisoft is chasing industry trends and they're not innovating anything. And on top of that, they've become entitled. Now, what do I mean by entitled? I think Ubisoft thinks that they have a big enough name that people will buy their games regardless, no matter how much effort or marketing or support or quality that they put into it. They've become greedy and they've given into the microtransactional economy, and they're a shell of who they once were. Not to mention the sexual misconduct scandals and numerous leadership issues that have happened over the years on the business side of things, which just does not help anything in this situation. And the sad part is that Ubisoft has some of the most creative and impressive developers in the world. I have no doubt about it. I mean, we've seen their flashes of greatness time and time again. So I don't want people to think I'm bashing the developers side of Ubisoft, because I'm not. I'm trying to show the consequences of the business side of Ubisoft that has led to a cut in costs and layoffs and quicker turnarounds that developers can't keep up with. And all of these things just led to poorly made games. Ubisoft games went from being some of the most exciting, artistic, and polished to being uninspiring, uncreative, and repetitive. So it's to the surprise of no one that Ubisoft stock has completely plummeted over these last 5 years, and now they're in talks about selling individual franchises, and there are rumors about being sold entirely to Tencent. I have multiple videos where I go into much more detail about those things, and it's just not the point of this video, but here we are. You guys are all caught up and up to speed. Assassin's Creed Shadows is the last-ditch effort of Ubisoft here in 2025. They desperately need a win. They desperately need to regain not only investor trust, but player trust as well. They've delayed the game for months to meet the expectations and demands of the market, which was disappointing in the short term, but it seems like it was worth it in the medium to long term. So the game released without any major bugs, and people have been decently happy with it from what I've seen. And many journalism sites are praising the game, saying that any critiques that people are posting are just nitpicky from salty people who wanted to see the game fail before it even came out. But yeah, the game is set in feudal Japan. It brings back dynamic stealth mechanics while maintaining an open world RPG feel and a reactive NPC system. And the game has a great story to back up these features. So I think it's safe to say it has lived up to the hype. The core player base is generally happy, and there's been a smooth launch up to this point. Is Ubisoft saved? Well, financially, maybe. I mean, this will probably get Ubisoft back in the green and we'll see some more revenue for the company, but it pains me to say that I think Ubisoft is too far gone to be saved. Not to mention, one game definitely can't save an entire billion-dollar company, but even if it could, even if Ubisoft can string together multiple good launches after Shadows of various titles, I think that Ubisoft is screwed until their leadership changes. So I'm not saying that the individual franchises are screwed, because Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Tom Clancy's, they can always be sold individually, but Ubisoft as a company has no vision with the Guillemot family at the forefront, and with leadership problems, you can put them off for a while and act like everything is fine, just put on a smile for the public, but eventually it will all come crashing down even harder on Ubisoft sometime or another, unless they figure something out. They treat their employees poorly. Let's not forget that Ubisoft fired the creator of Assassin's Creed because they wanted to take over the franchise and milk it for money. I mean, the guy was literally escorted out of the building without being able to say goodbye to his team after Ubisoft literally stole the creative rights of Assassin's Creed. So let's not act like this is a new thing. I mean, Ubisoft, the ownership, the Guillemot family, the leadership, they are not great people. They are not nice. They don't treat their employees well at all. And that's just one example of the mistreatment of employees, but it just proves that the Guillemot family are money-hungry vultures that could care less if you enjoy Assassin's Creed Shadows, but rather care about the amount of money going into their own pocket. So enjoy Assassin's Creed Shadows and any Ubisoft games while you still can, because when the dust settles, when the last desperate cash grab fails, when the franchises have been sold off piece by piece, all that will remain of Ubisoft is a hollow shell of what we once knew the company as, and a cautionary tale of greed. What do you guys think of Assassin's Creed Shadows if you guys have played it yet? And what do you think about the future of Ubisoft? Let me know down in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Besides for that, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.